Joining me now is one of those House members, California Republican Congressman Kevin Kiley. Congressman, thank you so much for being here. We were talking about this a little before we went on the air. You're not in session right now, despite the fact that the government is shut down. And you voiced your own frustration about that. You think that the House should be back in session. Have you expressed that frustration to the Speaker, and what was his response?
I have. I mean, the Speaker has suggested that because the House voted for a 7-week short-term continuing resolution, that apparently there's no other reason for us to be in session. But the problem is we were supposed to be in session this week and the week before and the week before, irrespective of the government shutdown. Like, the House has a lot of things to do, including, by the way, passing our actual appropriation bills that are going to come due in a few weeks, even if the 7-week continuing resolution becomes law. But in addition to that, the very fact that we have a government shutdown is all the more reason to be here so that we can do everything we possibly can to end this terrible thing for the American people.
And has he given you an explanation beyond just the strategy of it all? I mean, Democrats are saying it's just to delay the discharge petition on the Epstein files. Do you think that's playing any role in it? What's your sense of the rationale here?
Yeah, I can't speculate as to motivations, but I haven't heard any explanation that makes sense to me. And, you know, I find it very frustrating. You know, I am here to represent my constituents and to fight for my district and my state at the Capitol. And I can't do that when the House is out of session indefinitely and every oversight hearing is canceled. Every markup of legislation is canceled. All other activities of the House that were supposed to be happening, government shutdown or not, are not happening now.
Right, right. And you and your colleagues are still getting paid as a result, even though the shutdown.
Well, I'm having my paycheck.
I know you're having your paycheck, but I do think it's worth making that point. One of your concerns during the shutdown is, of course, the military missing paychecks. That could potentially happen as soon as Wednesday. But President Trump says those service members will be paid from research and development funds. Do you think that's a smart move by the president? Do you support that? And do you think it's enough, given everything that's happening right now?
I do support it, absolutely. This is one of the reasons why I said also we need to come back is to pass, at least if we couldn't solve the larger problem, to pay our troops bill, to make sure that our troops get paid. Because if our troops have to miss a paycheck, that's a horrible thing. I'm glad the White House was able to get creative in order to solve that problem, at least in the short term. But we're still talking about a lot of people going without paychecks, folks like air traffic controllers, TSA agents. I know the White House is working to try to find a solution for federal law enforcement. You have 1 million plus people being furloughed. You have federal contractors and the folks that they work with being furloughed. You have national parks, monuments, museums being closed down, other services that people are losing access to. A shutdown is a bad thing for the country. That's why I voted to avoid a shutdown during both this administration and the Biden administration. I wish that the Senate would go ahead and pass that bill that we passed, even though that's not an ideal solution. At least it would end the shutdown. I actually think that Senator Schumer is acting unreasonably in not doing so. But this is politics. Sometimes you have to work with people you believe are acting unreasonably.
So if we're to extrapolate that out, do you think the Speaker should be in a room with the Senate Majority Leader and the Senate Minority Leader and Hakeem Jeffries to try and find a way out of this impasse? And should health care negotiations be on the table right now?
Yes, we should be exploring any and all possible avenues to get the government back open. So Senator Schumer has raised the issue of the ACA subsidies. And I know that there are a number of people in both my party and the other party who are very concerned with the prospect of a sudden increase in healthcare premiums, particularly in California, where the cost of living is so high already. So there's going to need to be a deal on that issue one way or another eventually. And so if reaching that deal now, or at least making a step towards that deal now, is a pathway out of the shutdown, I don't know why we wouldn't at least explore that.
I want to go back to the question about the White House moving funds around to try and make sure military service members and others get paid. I don't think anybody disagrees with the concept that military people should be paid. But are you a little worried that Congress is surrendering the power of the purse and that the executive branch is making these decisions without your input?
Well, certainly that's why we need to get the government back open and to pass actual funding bills so that we do provide that appropriation. But remember, the White House didn't ask for this. You know, it's the job of Congress to actually fund the executive branch. So when they're suddenly told, oh, sorry, you don't have your funding anymore, they do need to figure out a way to make do. And so I do think that it was the right decision, at least in the short term, given that Congress was refusing to even pass a standalone bill to pay our military to find the funds.
But are you worried you may never get that power back if that power is ceded during this period of time and the White House uses this as a reason to start moving funds around, that could set a precedent that could be dangerous down the road?
Well, I think a lot of us have longstanding concerns about protecting Article 1, the legislative branch, the authority of the legislative branch. And that's not something that is started with this administration or the previous administration. And I think that there has been a long longstanding and growing problem of more and more legislative authority being ceded. And so, of course, that's something that I'm concerned about. And I do think that, as sort of a larger issue, we do need to have Congress reclaim more of its constitutional authority.
Yeah. So let's talk about the specifics around, if we're to isolate one issue as a possible pathway out of the shutdown, and that's the Affordable Care Act subsidies. Do you have a particular position on this? Do you think that they should be extended? Would you be in favor of a one-year extension to at least allow for reforms to the program? Where do you sit on that?
Yeah, I'm open to any and all of those possibilities. I think that probably a one-year extension is the very least that we need to do. But we also need to recognize the larger issue here, which is the reason that healthcare costs keep continuing to grow, and address that underlying issue in it as well. So there are a lot of ideas for the sort of reforms that would lead us in that direction. I do think that needs to be part of a deal, but that's obviously going to take time for any such reforms to be effective, and American citizens should not have to pay the price in the meantime.
I talked to your colleague Marjorie Taylor Greene about this issue. She's obviously been very vocal about it. She agrees with you that the House should be back in session, but she also accused your party's leadership of not having a plan at all when it comes to health care. Do you think that's true? Does your party not have a plan when it comes to health care?
Well, I know that there have been a lot of ideas out there, health savings accounts, other reforms making things more transparent. I don't know that there's some great overarching plan that every single member of the House agrees on, because in the Republican conference, because health care is a notoriously complicated issue. I think there probably is something to the idea that both sides of the aisle have allowed this crisis to continue to grow and grow and grow, such that health care costs have just become astronomical. And this idea that suddenly people are going to see even further increases in their premiums when these subsidies run out, I think that's really unacceptable to all.
All right, let's talk about an issue that's really directly impacting you, and that's redistricting. You proposed a bill to ban mid-decade redistricting, as they're doing in Texas now. Now, California, your state, is proposing something along these lines. Are you getting any support from your colleagues in this vein? Do you think there's any chance that this bill has a reality of becoming law?
I think if it received a vote, it would pass. I have people who come up to me every day, and primarily on the Republican side, saying they think this is absolutely the right thing to do. They said to keep advocating for what you're advocating for. And this is particularly true of those who are in states that are being affected by this. Even in states where Republicans are in charge and Republicans stand to pick up seats, the members there don't like it because their districts are being butchered and they're losing communities that they've represented for some time, communities that have chosen them as their representatives. So this is not something that members on either side of the aisle are particularly in favor of, with this redistricting war that's breaking out across the country. And so I have advocated very strongly to the Speaker to bring this bill to the floor for a vote. And I think if it did get a vote, it would pass.
So, but are you upset with President Trump that he kind of put some pressure on Texas to begin kind of the first, fire the first shot in this redistricting war? Do you wish that he hadn't done that?
Well, I absolutely disagree with what's going on with Texas. I disagree what's happening in any state that's looking at doing a mid-decade gerrymander. Whether that was the first shot or it was responding to some other shot, obviously you could have the two sides argue back and forth on that. My view is gerrymandering is wrong wherever it occurs. I'm urging our voters in California to vote no on Proposition 50, because that's our chance to reject gerrymandering in the one place that we can in our own state. But ultimately, I'm disappointed in the Speaker for not standing up both for our own members as well as for the institution of the House of Representatives. I think this is doing a terrible thing for our country, for democracy, for representative government, having this redistricting war cascading from one state to the next.
Okay, it's probably not over yet, though. Congressman Kiley, thank you for being here. We appreciate it.
You bet. Thank you.
Right.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app, or watch live on our YouTube channel.